Okay, it's time to admit something. I was wrong about the Hobonichi cousin. You're probably wondering how I got in this situation. Well, let me take you back to 2022.
Oh, wow!
It's cold!
After experiencing all of the problems I had with the cousin, and after buying it and being disappointed and being convinced back into buying it and being disappointed again, I swore I would never be back in one. So I'm here today to eat crow. What changed? Because the planner certainly didn't. Well, my life changed. And I realized with a bigger workload, I was gonna need more space than my smaller planners could give me. But in order to make absolutely certain I wasn't going to be falsely seduced by the Hobonichi cousin yet again, I drastically changed my approach to using it. That approach is what I'd like to share with you today. We're gonna talk about how I overcame my challenges with this book and how I'm using it now, and the one mindset shift that's really making a difference. Let me recap why I left the cousin in the first place. So this is my new cousin. As you can see, it's an HON, it's a HON, but I'm gonna use my old cousin for a demonstration because I actually haven't been in this planner since the beginning of 2022. And the first reason I left was because of the size. I was finding that this was just too big of a book for me to take back and forth to work. And when you're first looking at them, like, you know, this book and this book don't look that different in terms of size, but the HON had not been invented yet. Like, Hobonichi had not released this iteration of the cousin with the hardcover. So in order to take your book back and forth from work, you had to put it inside a Hobonichi cover. So this is an example of a Hobonichi cover. To protect it, you put the planner inside, you close it up, and then as you can see, it's like even bigger than just the book alone. And I know some people like to put like plastic covers over their book and that helps them transfer it from place to place. For me, I really didn't like the feeling of the just the plastic cover over the cardboard cover. I didn't feel like that was sturdy enough, so I was putting it in this massive cover and it just became like too big and too overwhelming for me. But more than that, what the issue was the space inside the book itself. So I was much more comfortable in book sizes like a B6, which as you can see is significantly smaller. This is the B6 planner I moved into for 2023. It was the first year Sterling Ink released her common planner, which was sort of an answer to all of the Hobonichi cousin woes I was feeling. And I think she even made it sort of in answer to some of the Hobonichi problems she had with the Hobonichi cousin. I have a million videos about this book on my channel. You can go check some of them out and I'll leave one of them linked up in the card. But basically the feeling I felt when I was holding this planner was like, oh my God, it's so much more manageable. It's so much more transferable. And if I have to put it into a cover, which I did, it wasn't as like monstrously huge as the cousin was. So I was much more comfortable in this size. I was using smaller planners like the Hobonichi Weeks a lot, which as you can see is really small compared to the Hobonichi cousin. So the size was a big factor for me in terms of deciding that I could not use the cousin. But more than that was the internal space of the cousin. So the cousin is just a really big page. It's A5 size. The grid is quite small. There's a lot of room in here to do whatever you want with. And it has dailies and weeklies. Can I flip to a blank weekly? And weeklies and monthlies. So it has a lot of space and a lot of stuff you can do with it. And I was just finding that each of these layouts at every turn was too big for what I needed at the time in 2022. And you can see like the second half of this planner is like not filled out basically at all because I bought this Spring Start cousin thinking that I was gonna love it and use it all the time. And actually I ended up sort of burning out like very quickly into the daily pages, just trying to fill them up. So yeah, I did not get very far through. And I'll give you an example. So this is a page from May of 2022. Wow, 3 years ago. Time flies. And you can really see that like for most of the days, I just needed a simple to-do list and I didn't need all of this extra space. I just needed a simple to-do list. So I wasn't using the cousin to the fullest and it was making me really anxious. Plus, I was also finding that like I really liked having a weekly spread. I was in the weeklies much more than I was in the dailies. And so I knew that having dated dailies in the back was not really helpful for me because I just wasn't using these pages. I was using the weeklies, which is why the common planner
planner was like the perfect answer for me because it has dated weeklies and then undated pages in the back. Enough to do a day per page if you wanted to do that daily page thing. But for me, I was just able to use my weeklies, have this be the spread that was open on my desk, and then have this as scratch paper and note paper, which was huge. I mean, like, cannot overstate how powerful that was to me as like part of my experience in using the planner. And then I just started to like pick apart the cousin for like little random reasons. Like, ultimately, I don't really mind that the weekends are red and have this gray thing. It doesn't really bug me, but it started to bug me because I was liking less and less all the other features of the planner. Same thing with the colors in the back. Each month is like a different color. Like this one is sort of like red. This one is sort of brown. And I just wasn't enamored with the colors. I thought they were annoying and irritating, especially because at this point I was trying to decorate my planner a lot. And so having the colors just got in the way of that in a big way. But all of that changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Just kidding. Actually, I'll get to this in a second. So then the next logical question is, how does this planner, which is by and large the same exact planner as this planner, resolve the issues I was having? It basically comes down to my life significantly changing between 2022 and 2025. 2022, 2023, I really needed books that were going to give me the luxury of blank space in the back just as without any dated pressure, and that were going to have a substantial weekly section. And I knew I really liked a vertical weekly and a way to track my time, but I knew I really didn't care for all the dated space, and that like the Hobonichi Cousin layout was just too like physically large for me at that time. Now, to be honest with you, that hasn't really changed. Like, the layouts are exactly the same in this one as they were in this one in 2022. So I'm still dealing with the same amount of space, but my life shifted a lot. I took on more at work. My YouTube channel took off. I'm just doing more all the time. And I found that I needed a daily page to handle all of that effort. I started filling up this space more and more. When I was in my common planner for the beginning half of 2025 and the end of 2024, I was finding myself going to the back pages and actually needing a substantial amount of page to just track my schedule and to make notes and all that sort of stuff. So I was really finding that I had a lot of need to have a full daily page. And it became such a radical shift that I found I wasn't using the weekly spreads at all. I did not want a weekly spread open on my desk because it didn't help me envision and handle everything that I needed to do. What was helping me was the day per page and having this amount of space available. So as soon as I started realizing that in my common planners, I realized I have an opportunity to go back into the Hobonichi Cousin. But I knew if I was going to go back into the Hobonichi Cousin, I needed to deal with this feeling I had that there was too much space. And ultimately, that comes down to a mindset shift. So the biggest mindset shift that has helped me move back into this planner to get the space I need on the daily pages without feeling overwhelmed is embracing white space. So truly feeling like if I leave the pages blank, I'm not failing. Truly feeling that white space is actually an asset and not a drawback.
I want to hop in here and talk about some exciting updates from Framer, who are kindly sponsoring today's video. If you don't know, Framer is a no-code website builder that feels like a design tool but creates professional websites. This spring, they dropped some seriously cool new features that are all about simplifying complex processes, which you know I'm all about. The feature I'm most excited about is their completely revamped AI site builder. I can now generate an entire website in under 5 minutes. You just type what you want and it creates a fully responsive site that you can customize to your heart's content. For the visually creative folks, their new Vectors 2.0 feature lets you draw and create illustrations directly in Framer, which speaks to that decluttered simplicity I'm always advocating for. If you're looking to build or refresh your online presence, head to the link in my description to try Framer for free and get 25% off your first 3 months. Thanks again to Framer for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to our planning system.
And I've been drawn to bigger and bigger notebooks over the course of the past, 6 months. I think a lot of that has to do with sort of how I shifted to really thinking on paper. I have a whole video about how to think on paper. I'll leave it linked in the cards. But essentially, my common planner, which is this one, which has all this empty space in the back, was just instrumental in me getting my thoughts out, scribbling things down, and really having enough space to capture all of my thoughts on one spread. So larger notebooks in general were really speaking to me, and it sort of follows that a larger planner would start to speak to me as the year went on too. And I'm not alone in that. I actually found a study from 2018 where researchers had participants plan their schedules using either like a very crowded space or a very open and spacious space. And by and large, they found that those who used planners with more white space reported 32% lower stress levels, 27% higher satisfaction with their planning system, and 24% better adherence to planned tasks, which is crazy. Like, your productivity rises by a third and your stress lowers by a third if you embrace white space. So that's just insane to me. And it showed me really that using a planner with a lot of space really helps me, or could help me, in achieving everything that I aimed to achieve in 2025 without being as stressed. And all the extra space that a daily page affords me, like now this just looks like play to me. This just looks like fun. This looks like space where I can mind map out a project. I can take notes, I can iterate on a thumbnail concept, I can draw out a campaign plan. It just looks like I can do anything with it. So that's the joy of a bunch of blank space, but also embracing white space is just about letting empty spots be empty without any guilt. And I really struggled with this when I first tried the Cousin, because all I saw online were like fully filled out pages that were beautiful. But my pages don't look like that. Many of them are primarily empty. Here's another example from 2022 when all I needed was just like this tiny amount of space to handle what I needed to handle for that day. And I didn't really need all the rest of the space. So having to reframe empty space as a good thing, like this is my planner working, this is my planner working for me, rather than it failing, was really, really key. All right. Now let's actually talk about the planner itself. You can see that I have the Hobonichi HON, the Hobonichi HON. It has a hard cover, and I've got it in a plastic cover on cover just to protect the hard cover, but I really feel like this is very sturdy compared to the like sort of flexible cardboard of the original Cousin, and it's much more compact than including the original Cousin with a cover. The desktop profile is a lot more compact. I don't want to take off the clear cover because I just found it kind of more difficult to get on than getting a clear cover on the cardboard version. So I don't really want to take it off. Plus I have a bunch of different things in the cover. So the first thing I have is this patch. It's a sticker patch, so it's just like stuck onto the cover. And obviously I want to protect that, so I wanted the clear cover and cover over it as well. This is just a reference to Twin Peaks. I watched Twin Peaks at the end of last year and beginning of this year, and Dale Cooper is always saying like a damn fine cup of coffee. And like, you know, who doesn't love a damn fine cup of coffee? So I fell in love with this patch, and I just wanted to have it as a little bit of personal decoration on the planner. On the inside cover, I have this little skill card, which is actually from a store called Top Drawer. And they have these skill cards, which are really cute when you're going around their store. This one is the importance of analog tools. And so I just keep it in here to remember the importance of analog tools. I find this like a really fun little thing to have. Also on the front cover, I will sometimes paper clip important documents or notes that I need to reference or integrate somehow into the planner. So this is just a piece of note paper. It's turned around because the information is private, but it's just a piece of note paper I had sketched out some ideas on, and I want to put those in the appropriate place. So I still need to do that. So it's just a reminder that I need to do that. And then in the back cover, I have a picture of myself and my partner, Tim. He's also a producer on this channel, so shout out to Tim. And I also have this Zora Neale Hurston quote. It's sort of in a postcard. I got this as a gift. It says, "Such as I am a precious gift." I just thought it was really beautiful. I love Zora Neale Hurston, so it was a fun quote to put there. I actually also on the back have a similar quote, sort of postcard. It's from the same set, and like I said, I just got these like as a little gift. Somebody sent them to me. And it says, "To realize our dreams, we must decide to wake up," from Josephine Baker. And I just think she's kind of an incredible person. So these were two really cool quotes. And I like having them in my planner as personal reminders to myself for how I want to live. Yeah, I love that. I also, The HON Cousin also comes with a pencil board, so this is just an iteration for the hardcover version. The regular versions don't come with it, but I keep this just loose in the back. I don't really use pencil boards when I'm on the pages, but I keep it loose in the back because it has this pen loop and I can just clip my pen to it and basically then carry my planner around like this with the pen in the back. So I just keep that back there. So yeah, so that's the sort of like front and back matter of my Cousin, but the real meat happens in the inside. So let's actually first take a look at some daily pages. So I have my daily pages tabbed up here. So this is the basic anatomy of a daily page in my planner. I always start the day by writing out my schedule, and you can see on the sidebar here, I changed the date. I changed the numbers. So if you go like to a blank daily page, the numbers are like 5 a.m. through like 3 a.m., but it's only one line per hour and I need a lot more space than that. So I just handwrite the correct hours, or my preferred hours, which is 2 lines per hour, so that I can do half-hour breakouts. And so I do that every day, and then I write out the schedule and I write out my priorities. So I write the heading priorities, I write the heading schedule, and then under priorities, I write out the like 5 or 6 things I need to do that day. And then the rest of the daily page is just devoted to whatever notes are necessary. So I have a supplemental to-do list. I have a list of reviews that I have to do. I have a list of some work that my direct is working on. This is me actually like mapping out a scene from a story that I'm writing. This is some journaling. I'll often take meeting notes if I have a meeting in this section before I type them up and put them into a more shareable form for my team. But this is like pretty much what the daily pages are looking like. I don't do very much decoration. Occasionally I do. Yeah, so this is an example of a page with more decoration. I just stuck this sticker of David Lynch in here where it says, okay, let's try that again, but this time good. And then, I have a little emoji sticker to just show how I'm feeling, this kind of usual stuff that I do where I'm really using stickers as a way to express my feelings rather than just decoration for decoration's sake. That way I feel like my decoration has a purpose. It means that when I look back on this, I can get a sense of how I was feeling rather than just being like, oh, I guess I really like that color or that sticker palette today. Sometimes my schedule's really, really packed and I really have a lot that I need to shove in there. Sometimes it's a lot thinner and I have a little bit more space. Some days are really, really full. Like I even have to write down here on the margins, and then some days are just completely empty. And I'll just write a little like note about what I was doing and put an image. Today I spent all day filming and it was just a really stressful day. So I have a Ron Swanson image of him just like chugging alcohol. I came to this format not without practice. As I've explained in previous videos, I actually ended up taking the very end of my common planner when I was thinking about moving into the Hobonichi Cousin and doing like a day per page just to experiment with this format and experiment with what I like to do. It changed a lot over the time. Some days I didn't do it at all, etc., etc. But this really helped me understand what I needed to do it helped me visualize how I would be using the Cousin, so that I could understand if it was actually going to be useful to me before I bought it. I have a whole video explaining this process, so I'll leave that linked up at the cards. But it's really working. And then here's that embracing white space, right? I don't feel guilty that this is left blank because I know that what I need on a day-to-day basis is this amount of space. And if I don't use it, well, bully for me, that's fine. Like I don't have to use the space, but just giving it to myself and allowing myself the amount of space I need to think has really been a game changer. So I've really, really enjoyed that. So I'm clearly using the Hobonichi Cousin as a daily first planner, which means I'm really not in the weeklies or monthlies very much, but I am using those spreads. So let me show you how I'm doing the weekly layout. The weeklies are probably the most famous spread in the Hobonichi Cousin. I think a lot of people buy the Cousin because of these weeklies. They're very minimal, but they're really effective. And they have a 24-hour clock, which is huge for a lot of people. So I don't use the weekly for scheduling anymore. My weeklies look like this most of the time. Again, I'm in this gotta embrace the white space type of energy, right? Because this has a lot of white space. It's a very far cry from how I was using my weeklies when I last used the Cousin. Stuff like this, stuff like this. This is a huge far cry from what I was doing previously. But I am getting that kind of minute-to-minute scheduling already in my dailies, so I knew I didn't want to duplicate information in the weeklies, so I had to come up with a new way to use it that would ultimately serve my productivity. So my solution has been to turn these weeklies into a tickler file. If you don't know what a tickler file is, it's basically a type of reminder system that works by tickling your brain, for what you need to do. So ordinarily, you'd create this filing system with a bunch of dated, separated files, like in an actual file box, like a filing cabinet, and you'd put note cards or pieces of paper in those files according to when you want your brain to be tickled to remember the thing you had to remember, whether that was a project you needed to get started on, a birthday you needed to make a phone call for, whatever it was, you'd put that in that tickler file. So instead, what I'm doing as I'm going through my day, I'm in my daily pages and a task comes up or a thought comes up or whatever, I remember that I need to buy a birthday gift for my mom. I'm coming back into my weeklies and I'm saying, okay, when do I want to be reminded that I have to do this? Because I clearly don't have time for it today. I mean, look at my schedule. When do I want to be reminded that I want to do this? And then I will flip to that respective page in the weeklies and I will write down buy birthday present for mom. So I have a lot of follow-up tasks, like this one says follow up on emails for scheduling for next week. What I do every day when I am setting up my priorities list is I will flip back to the weekly section and I'll look on that day and I'll see if I've set anything up to tickle my brain to remind myself to do something. And then this is what goes on my daily page first. So then I'll do this thing and I'll just move it to the daily page and it will get done as part of my daily page, and this is what stays open on my desktop. This is really great for things like building in reminders to follow up on emails, building in reminders to start preparing for presentations or to check in with my team if they've completed something on a weekly or bi-weekly schedule that I set them. It's really important for those things. And this way I can also capture tasks without having to flip through all of my daily pages. I'll give you another example. So I work at a university, so we're on a semester basis, and the end of spring semester is always super busy because students are graduating, so there's a lot that needs to get done. And to give you an example of stuff like how this really comes in handy is there's a ton of things that I want to do over the summer that I have just parked in this first week of summer after the spring semester ends. So I can remind myself, I can come in here and remind myself oh, I want to do all these things this summer. Now that the spring semester is over, it's time to start planning those out. And maybe some of these then go to a future weekly and I say, well, actually, I don't need to do this one until, June or whatever. And then I'll put it in the appropriate day when I want my brain to be tickled, if that makes sense. But yeah, this does involve just being open with a lot of quote unquote wasted empty space. But so far, I really like it. It's really working for me. I'm pretty happy with it. In the front of the planner, the yearly and monthly sections are not really as useful. In the front of the planner, my yearly section is not really being used. I'm sort of using it as an index. So if I have notes on a particular month daily spread, I will write down what notes are there. But this is very loose. I've never really been a big user of the yearly section. I don't habit track, so it's not really very useful to me, but I'm trying to use it as an index, seeing how that feels. It's not something I'm super keeping up with. And then the months I have clipped off here, so it goes from the yearly directly into the months. This is an Aura photograph that I took of my Aura. I got a gift card as a gift, and I think it looks pretty cool. But then the months are just just random ephemera dumps. I'll show you a previous one. So this is a good example of what I do. I'm going to kind of cover this section because it's a little bit private, but this is basically what my monthlies end up looking like. I will have movie tickets or tags from things that I bought. I was watching Parks and Rec this month, so I just printed out my favorite Ben Wyatt quotes, and then I'll journal a little bit about what happened over the course of the month on the spread. somewhere, wherever it makes sense. And then I'll just really close this page off because I find flipping through ephemera pages to be really challenging. Like things flip up and things catch. So I don't really want to flip through these pages, so I'll just clip them off with a paper clip. And then now that April's over, I will have to come back in here and do the same thing for this month, and then I'll clip the page to May. And it'll just be handled. So this is just a fun thing. I'm not really caring if I keep up with it. The most important things that I keep up with are the weekly tickler file and then the daily pages, of course, which is the main point of this planner, the main reason why I got it.
That's my cousin. The Hobonichi Cousin can be a powerful tool when you give yourself permission to use it your way. Remember, white space isn't a failure. It's breathing room for your life to happen. I'd love to know which part of this approach resonates most with you. Are you salivating at the idea of a bigger daily, or are you excited about using the weekly pages as a tickler file? Let me know down in the comments below. If you want to see more realistic planning approaches for those of us balancing full lives, I have a video right here next to my head that is a brutally honest walkthrough of my weekly reset. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, for being subscribed, and for being awesome. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next one.